Well, Dr. Bernard has been a founding supporter of WMCA. Without him and his support, I'm not sure where we'd be. He's been instrumental in our growth. He's a major player locally and nationally.
Our God is greater, our God is stronger. God, you are higher than any other. Our God is healer.
A.R. Bernard in this area has been monumental in using everything at his disposal to share the gospel.
To be able to meet up with pastors, good men and women who are leaders in New York City, and we really love working with them, talking with them.
We're delighted to be here. This isn't our first time, of course. We've come multiple times, and just this collaboration with pastors and leaders of this city is just a wonderful opportunity for us to work together.
I have immense respect for Dr. A.R. Bernard, and I know you do as well. Please give him a big Collaborate welcome as he comes to round us out today.
Good morning. I promise you I will be brief. You've been here all morning, so I will be brief, no matter how long it takes. It is so good to be with you, and just the occasion itself, because we all want to know what we can do to do ministry better. And we've been at this for 41 years, my wife and I. So I just want you to know, we didn't get here overnight. And people come and see where we are, not realizing that we started in a little storefront in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, with 4 people. All right? And thank God that those individuals are still part of the ministry. My wife, my 3 sons. So I want you to understand, when we had the storefront, we would have services with just them in the audience before anybody else came. And I got tickled because my wife used to sit there, and she would always look at the back door because it was a storefront. We had one aisle, 10 steel tubular chairs on one side and the other side. I built the platform. I built the altar. I became a carpenter. So I figured I was following in good footsteps. So, and she would look at the back door while I was preaching. And I thought that she was praying for people to come in. It was 10 years later that I asked her about it, and she said to me, no, I was trying to figure out who you were talking to because it was only me in there. And you were preaching like there was about 1,000 people in there. And it blessed me because, in my mind, I'm preparing for the future. And there were some prayers that I was hoping God wouldn't answer after I realized. Because, we had 20 chairs, and I was praying for revival and 5,000 people to come. But that's where we are. We're being creative and imaginative and doing everything we can. Someone asked me, did you know then that you'd be where you are today? Absolutely not. I had no idea. Along the way, we were trying our best to respond to what we had. And we grew, and we realized we had to grow with that growth. Figure out, okay, now we've got these many people coming. What do we do to effectively reach them and serve them? So it's not like, I had this blueprint that we sat down, God handed it to me and showed me the next 40 years. It wasn't like that. We had to learn to adapt and adjust, make mistakes. And one important thing that I've learned over time, that you have seasons of ebb and flow. I don't care how big you get, how small you are, you have seasons of ebb and flow. There are times when things are going beautifully, people are coming, finances are good, and then all of a sudden things shift. And you would think, well, you don't have that problem. Yes, we do. You don't know our light bill. You don't want to know our light bill. All right? But things shift. And in those periods or seasons of ebb, it really taps into your creativity because you have to learn to do more with less. Yeah. All right? And no matter what size or level you're at, it's the same thing. It places you to reorganize, to rethink what you're doing, how you're doing it. to repurpose certain aspects of ministry or things that you're involved with, departments and people. It also forces you to prune, to cut away, to cut the fat. And I want to share something with you to that regard. And during the periods of flow, because of the ebb, because of those times that we had to struggle and really pray God for resources to come in so that we could meet our expenses and continue ministry, we learned to appreciate the flow. We learn to not only be encouraged by it, inspired by it, but also use it to prepare for what we know will be the cycle, that there will be another period of ebb. So, it goes back to Joseph, 7 years of plenty and 7 years of famine as a cycle. It goes around. So we have not been on this one trajectory where everything has always been wonderful. Because as you grow and move from one level to another, your expenses change. You expand. There's greater responsibility, all of that. So we've learned along the way. And what's been most important to us is longevity. What do we do for longevity? In 41 years, I could tell you, I've seen so many winds blow in, blow up, and blow out. I'm talking about the church in general. And when I read Ephesians 4:12 to 14, especially 14, it says that he's given these gifts of apostles, prophets, teachers, pastors, evangelists, essentially that we no longer are children tossed by every wind of doctrine. And I will tell you, in 41 years, I've seen the winds blow. And a church cannot experience longevity being driven by the latest trend, by the latest fad, by the latest it. And if that's where you are, you're going to struggle to grow. All right? Your growth is going to be a roller coaster ride. One of the things you have to do is clearly define who you are, what's your message, and what's the experience that you're delivering that's different from everyone else. And instead of trying to be what everybody else is, find out who you are and what you do, and then do it best. Do it better than anyone else, because you can't do everything. We learned that. There's a reason why you can go down on a main road and find McDonald's next to Burger King, next to Taco Bell, next to KFC. All right? You would think, why in the world would they do that? Because they're competing. No. They understand that they bring a specific experience. They bring a specific product, right? And hopefully they're going to take from people who won't want a Burger King one day. They'll rather go to KFC. And I love KFC because they get it. We do chicken right. What do you do right? Find that out, discover it, nail it. Because I will tell you, in the years that we've been here, because we've grown, have great capacity and influence, people want us to do a lot of things that we're not here to do. People want us to get involved in things that we're not here to get involved with. You've got to know your purpose. Otherwise, you will be all over the place and frustrated because you're not getting anything done. And I'm going to give you a metrics that we developed over time that I believe will be helpful for you. Thank God for Salem Communications, WMCA, and their willingness to pour into leaders. Having meetings like this, I have the opportunity to be a part of pastors' luncheons and mostly luncheons. You don't do breakfast, right? Okay, luncheons across the country, and I have the opportunity to come in and to share from our growth and development. Did we make mistakes along the way? Yes, we did. Yeah, you will make mistakes. And you try to learn from those mistakes, have a positive evaluation of the past so you're not imprisoned by those mistakes, and forge into the future. Well, by the way, Representative Cabrera, thank you for being here. Thank you for all that you're doing in ministry and also in the political arena. And I heard that you announced that you steal sermons from me. I will give you who to make the check payable to after the service. I'll just let you know. Praise the Lord. Yeah. But is anything original? we are all sharing and building on each other, one another. Amen? There's so much I could share with you, but I've put it into a book that we just finished, the last manuscript. I just got it back from my editor, and it's called Church Shopping. And in that book, I look at 10 things that people look for when they're determining what church they're going to go to. And it came out of an article that I read in the Wall Street Journal back in 2008. So it's taken all these years to do the research and to put it together. But it was a Wall Street Journal article, and it was about companies, retail companies, clothing stores, etc., who were hiring consultants to go into their retail establishments and pose as what they call secret shoppers. They weren't really there to shop, they were there to record the experience. From soup to nuts, when you walk into the door of the establishment, the salespeople, how everything's arranged, the whole experience. Then they would report back to corporate on what that experience was, and then corporate would use that to understand how they need to redesign or readjust or change the organization so they can deliver the kind of experience that people are looking for. Well, there was another consulting firm who thought of the idea of doing it for churches. So over the last 10 years, there have been organizations, consultants that churches, usually mega churches, hire them because they can afford to bring in these consultants. And they had what is called secret worshipers. So they would actually send people to your worship service without you knowing it, and they would record the experience. From the parking lot to the lobby, to the greeters, to the ushers, to the sermon, to the paint that's on the wall, to the carpet, to the bathrooms, everything. Record it and report it all back to the pastors, and the pastors would use that information. So it piqued my curiosity. I said, well, what are people looking for when they go to a church? Is it consistent in terms of what people long for in their church experience? And I found that it is pretty consistent across the country, no matter what geographic location, no matter, in fact, around the world. No matter what region you're in, no matter what race, ethnicity, cultural context, education, class, it doesn't matter. People are looking for certain basic things. So we put it all together in a book along with the research, and it should be out by spring of next year. We're looking, because now we've got to go through the cover design and all the other things that go along with publishing. But you'll hear a lot of the things that we learned and experienced along the way to get to where we are. It's called Church Shopping. And it's funny because I do a program on radio on Sunday mornings from 8 to 9 with a dear friend of mine, Rabbi Joseph Potasnik, and it's called The Rev and the Rabbi. I'm the Rev. And we talk about social issues and cultural issues through the lens of our faith. So I was talking about the book on the air, and of course he said, you know what? There are people who do that. It's called shul shopping. And I had no idea that there are people who are looking for what Jewish temple they're going to go to. And guess what? I grabbed that real quick and incorporated it in the book, because it means that whether it's a shul or a mosque or a church or a temple, people are looking for the same things. So that's my pitch for the book. And it will be out, and I'm sure that it will bless you. You will see all of the good, the bad, and the ugly, all of the things that we learned. Not all, but a significant number of things that we learned along the way. I want to share something with you that I think is just really important, because growth, progress needs to be measured, right? Because you should have certain expectations. You know, I tease people. I say, you know, the educational system never intended you to spend your life in kindergarten. That's why they make the chairs so small, in hopes that you will outgrow it and move on to another grade. When I was in high school, they had something called a super senior. And these were individuals 21 years old, and they were still in the 12th grade. You know, unfortunate that our system can even allow for something like that. But growth should be measurable. Progress should be, measurable. I give a principle that that there needs to be measurable progress, all right, in reasonable time. There needs to be measurable progress in reasonable time. There needs to be measurable progress in reasonable time. So Jesus tells a story of the person who comes to the fig tree, right? And he's looking for figs, for growth, but he finds none. And in Luke 13, it says that I've been coming 3 years. There's been no growth. There's been no fruit, no development. And he says, cut it down. And then the caretaker says, well, no, don't cut it down. Let me fertilize it, all right? And let's give it a year to see if there will be a change in growth and development. And if not, then cut it down. Of course, the fig tree was representation of Israel, and the fertilization and the extended time had to do with God's grace. But the bottom line is, it was looking for what? Growth, for progress. So there needs to be, right, measurable progress in reasonable time. Otherwise, we need to make substantial changes. I'll say it again. There needs to be measurable progress in reasonable time. Otherwise, we need to make substantial changes. Right? That's very, very, very important. And if you don't measure, all right, you will not make changes. Because you only tend to pay attention to things that you measure. Because when you're measuring them, they stay in your face. And you're seeing whether you're doing good or bad. So I want to give you a performance metric that I put together for our ministry. Because I realize that there's a difference between output and outcome. There's a difference between output and outcome. Flatulation is output, also known as gas. All right, I don't mean to sound vulgar, but I want to make the point. All right, I think we're all familiar with gas. Okay, and I don't mean for your car. Flatulation is output. It's not outcome. You know outcome by the amount of energy that your body has, by the amount of health, the functioning of all of the parts within your body. All right? You know that as the outcome of a proper diet and exercise and the right amount of sleep. So there are things that you do in order to have outcome. Unfortunately, in organizations, even in ministry, too much of what is produced is output and not outcome. I want to look at the difference and give you a little bit of a matrix chart. Can we get this up? Am I rolling, staff? Okay, let me check and see if I'm in. Okay, it's on me. Here we go. And we'll take this apart. So when you think of input, all right, when I think of input, I'm thinking of all of the things that go into what it takes to do ministry. So we're looking at money, we're looking at time, we're looking at staff, we're looking at the facilities, we're looking at equipment, we're looking at supplies, all of the resources that we pour in to doing ministry. And I know you can look at that list and think about your budget, because your budget's consumed by what you have to spend on these things, right? So this is input. This is all that you're pouring in, all the resources that you're pouring in to do ministry. Again, how much money, how much time, staffing that it takes, facilities. And let me just say this to you. If I can boil ministry down, and I'm not speaking theologically here, I'm speaking practically, organizationally, all right? Ministry is three things simply: environment, people, and programs. I'm going to say it again. Ministry is three things: environment, people, and programs. The environment, by environment, I mean not only the physical space, all right, but the spirituality of that space. Colors are important, the color of the carpet, the color of the paint, because all of those things have a psychological effect on people. The condition of the bathrooms, the lobby, all of that has a psychological effect on people. In my book, one of the first chapters, I talk about quality of life. People come to your church, all right, to get a new quality of life, to change the way they think so they can live that out in a better life. And that quality needs to be expressed in the experience, in that environment that you provide for them when they come in. I can judge a church by going to its bathroom. And if there's care taken with the bathroom, all right, I can know and assume that there's going to be care taken in the rest of that ministry. How often do we not do that? And I've been to some churches where the bathroom smells terrible. But it tells me it's a reflection on what the priority is, what the thinking is. All right? So environment is not just the physical spaces, but the spirituality of the space, the vibe, what people feel, what they experience. In a ministry as large as ours, people are concerned. Some people say, well, I can't go to a big church like that because it's impersonal. I need an intimate space. But there's a principle that is true. In human relationships, all right, when you think about intimacy, all right, distance, when you think about all those things that make people feel close to each other, all right? In human relationships, distance is not measured in miles, it's measured in affection. So you could have two people on the opposite sides of the planet and still feel very close and connected to each other because there is the kind of affection between them that brings them close together. You can have two people in the same bed and yet miles apart, because of the absence of affection necessary to bring them together and to create intimacy. So in a large congregation like this, we do everything we can to make people feel when they come in here, it's just me and them. In the sermon, in the preaching, in the style, in the delivery, in the music, in the environment, the ushers, everything. We want to reduce this large auditorium to this tiny little storefront church where it's just us. How do you do that? You create a warm, welcoming, inviting, affirming environment. And all of a sudden, people will say, Pastor, I felt you were just talking right to me. And that's exactly what I want. Because I want them to forget that there are thousands of people in here, and it's just them and God, them and the preacher. Environment is critical to that. All right? People. You have to think about the people, the demographics that you serve, all right? And you have to be experts in people. You can't be in ministry, all right, without being an expert on human nature, because that's what we're dealing with every day. Human nature, people, whether it's your staff, the people who are attending your church, the visitors, it doesn't matter. We are to be experts in people, understanding how people think, how they work, how they operate, how they interact with each other. And programs. These are the services, what you provide for people to experience when they come to your ministry. Your Sunday school, your youth ministry, all right, your seniors, all of that. So it all boils down to environment, people, and programs. How good are you at those three things? And of course, the metric, you're pouring in to that environment, to those people, and to those programs. Money, time, staff, facilities, equipment, supplies, and resources. And out of that comes, or you're pouring it in actually, to the activities that you're involved with in your ministry. Again, these are programs. Everything that you do, every activity imaginable, whether it's supportive activities, administrative activities, ministerial activities, All right? You're pouring all of this in. These are your inputs. So again, the programs, the events, the productions that you're engaged in, the services that you provide, the outreach that you're doing, all the stuff that you do as an organization, as a church, as a ministry. And that creates output. And by output, as I said, this is what is actually being produced. The results. And if you don't ask that question, if you don't say, okay, for all the money, time, staff, facilities, equipment, supplies, and resources that we're pouring in, with all of our programs, events, production services, outreach, all the stuff that we're doing, all right, what is really being produced by all of these efforts? You don't want output, you want outcome. Outcome. What is the organization benefiting from all of this efforts? Are we achieving our mission, our objectives, our goals? Are we? Never confuse movement with progress. Never confuse movement with progress. Just because you're busy doesn't mean you're progressing. And I will tell you, you can get so busy on things that make you feel good and short-term benefits, short-term ROI, that you're missing the big picture. You have to have a clearly articulated mission and vision, objectives and goals. That all of that money, time, staff, facilities, equipment, supplies, all of that effort goes into. Are you accomplishing your objective, the goals, the mission of that ministry? Because you could be so busy and the time goes by so quickly. And in 10 years, you're wondering, why are we still here? Why aren't we further along? Well, you've been busy, but you have not been achieving your mission, your vision, your objectives, or your goals. This is a very important metric. Take a picture of it. It's yours. Take it with you and think about it. Think about all the effort that you're putting in. And what are you getting out of it? What's your return on investment of all of this? True progress is measured by the degree to which you're moving towards your goals and objectives. The degree to which you are achieving your mission and your vision that God has given you. Again, never confuse movement with progress. Just because you're busy. And some people feel good because they were busy. They didn't get a thing done. But they were busy. I mean, every aspect of what you do, even in the sermon, even in the preaching, even in the teaching, you have to ask yourself. You know, there's one pastor, he has it printed on his podium, so whenever a guest speaker comes and steps up to the podium, the guest speaker sees those words. What's the point? Because you could put out a lot of saliva and sweat, and people leave not knowing what's the point. You want them to leave knowing, I get it. I got that. I'm taking home something. And in this world in which we live with millennials especially, who are challenging the establishment and the status quo, they want their church experience, their faith experience, to be relevant. And by relevant, I mean two things. They want it to be practical, which simply means they want to know that what they're experiencing in church, what they're hearing, what they're being taught, can be applied on a daily basis to every aspect of their lives. That's what they mean by relevance. Secondly, they want it to be socially applicable. You see, they're being challenged by things happening in society like no other generation. And it's happening so fast, and they don't know how to make sense of it. When they go to church, they want to hear something that helps them make sense of their friends committing suicide, of the political divide that's in this nation. On and on and on. And you don't have to get up and preach politics, but they want to know, what does God have to say about what's going on in the world around me? And I will tell you, you'll be blessed. You will be blessed when you provide that for them. Let me close with this. Over 41 years, I've seen people come and go. Come back and go again. Come back and go again. And then I just stopped counting. Listen, don't let the inconsistencies of people and the nature of people throw you off. Trust in God. Trust in the vision that He's given you. Stay focused to that. There'll be ebb and flow. All right? And you'll learn how to discern people better. Because I've learned that the majority of people are quickly endeared, easily committed, and easily offended. And we have to deal with a lot of people like that. People come and go for your church for reasons that don't even have anything to do with you or the preaching. Okay? They could have had a bad relationship and it took place in your church and they want it out. Yeah. Bad marriage, bad date. No. Don't take it personal. Don't take it personal. Do what you do. Be the best at it. Trust God. Stay faithful to that mission. And remember, there are no small churches, just small thinking. Don't be plagued by small thinking. God bless you, and thank you.
Honestly, I love the entire event, but especially when Pastor Bernard get up and he gave us all that information about ministry. I've learned so much from him. I wish I could sit with him and get some more information, because we're a small ministry and we're looking to grow, we're looking to expand, and we need someone that could help us. So being here today was a tremendous blessing.
Awesome in power. Oh, yes. Come on, just put your hands together just for a little while. Here we go. I see you out there. Some of you know it, and I invite you to sing along.